Hello. So, you know that one about first they came for X, but I didn't speak out because I wasn't an X. Then they came for Y, but I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Y. Then they came for Z, but I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Z. Then they came for me, and there was nobody to speak for me. Of course, that little parable misses out an important point, that the Ys and the Zs didn't speak out for the Xs either. That's when there's a national consensus either of weird ideas or plain cowardice, nobody speaks out. In fact, there are many who cheer them on. That is, of course, until it's their turn. So I was put in mind of that when I was sent the link to the following article by a subscriber. By the way, which reminds me, are you subscribed? Have you clicked that like button? Please do. Anyway, back to business. I want to remind you all that it's always going to be your turn. Whether you like it or not, sometime or another, they will come for you. Let's get back to Martin Parr. This chap wasn't even the prime mover in this case. He okayed a book for a festival of photography. And they were photographs of London life, first published in 1969, I believe. Now, two of the pages are as follows. Here we have a picture of a ticket inspector, and here we have a picture of a gorilla behind bars in a London zoo. I put up the subtitles when I found the video about this book because I want you to see that the photographers were saying over that specific photo, but perhaps not specifically about that photo, that the pictures showed the contradictions of London life. You can look at these two pictures in several ways. First of all, and this is what occurred to me straight away when I saw the two of them, was that here's a woman, she doesn't look very happy. She's stuck in a cubicle or a bus seat or something waiting to do her job. She's obviously tired and fed up, but she is imprisoned by her work. I can't see the gorilla very clearly, but I can't imagine that it's all that happy about being behind bars. Now, that's one interpretation. Then there's the interpretation that says, oh, these people are saying that black people are like gorillas. The fact is that the rest of the book has other black people in it. Here's another photograph, and none of them are compared in any way to gorillas. They're just ordinary people living ordinary lives. So it seems to me that anyone who thinks this one is comparing this woman to a gorilla, possibly the vision lies in the eyes of the beholder rather than in the photographs themselves. Anyway, whatever the reason, it was a 1969 book and published when Martin Parr was, I suppose, yet a youngster, but Parr is still being blamed for it. Having seen that, I was put in mind of the case of Tim Hunt, a very eminent Nobel Prize-winning scientist who was accused of sexism after he made a speech to a group of journalists, not a room full of female scientists, as was reported, by the way, a group of journalists in which he made fun of his own earlier tendency to fall in love with his female lab colleagues. The whole storm was stirred up by this woman, Connie St. Louis or San Louis. I don't know how she pronounces her name. I make no apologies if I've got it wrong. In fact, I rather wish I do have it wrong. A woman who, it seems, has a certain difficulty with the truth, both in reporting her own credentials as well as reporting what actually happened in that lecture. However, despite the fact that it turns out that Ms. San Louis is unreliable, Professor Hunt lost his job anyway. And then there's this, which became known as the Shirtstorm. A group of European astrophysicists succeeded in piloting a 46-pound spacecraft the size of a washing machine onto a comet about the same size as Central Park in New York, after a journey of 4 billion miles. Listen, I could hardly throw this paperclip into the rubbish bin next to my desk. Never mind get something that size into an object the size of Central Park, 4 billion miles away. Well, they did it. The first soft landing on a comet in human history. And what do we get? This tweet by an only moderately successful astrophysicist called Katie Mack, as if any woman is going to be put off from being an astrophysicist by a sci-fi type shirt, which, by the way, was made for Matt Taylor by a woman friend of his, and she thought it was really nice of him to wear it for such an occasion. Professor Taylor ended up apologising on camera for his indelicacy and bursting into tears, which made me ashamed to be a woman, quite frankly. And then, of course, there was this. Professor LeBeau was at some conference or other and was in a lift, that's an elevator to you guys in America, when somebody said, "What floor do you want?" When they were pushing the buttons, and he piped up, "Oh, ladies' lingerie," which was an obvious reference to a sporadically funny British comedy show about the rivalry between a lingerie department and a menswear department, both occupying the same floor of a somewhat down-at-heel department store, called Grace Brothers, by the way. One of the other people in the lift was this Harridan. Well, that's the only description that fits, I'm sorry to say, and she raised a complaint. The best I can say about this is that Professor LeBeau tried informally to explain the joke to her. She refused to accept the explanation. LeBeau then, all power to his elbow, refused to back down in any way or to apologise. And you know what? He kept his job, which only proves my point. Props to Professor LeBeau. But let's get on with my main point here. Do you notice that all these people under attack are the same demographic, basically? Matt Taylor's not really all that grey, but perhaps he's a little young. But in general, it's middle-aged and older white men who are getting this sort of treatment. There's a cultural idea abroad. It started years ago with talk of dead white men. That was the instant dismissal code. Now it's proceeded to living white men who are the wrong side of 40. It won't stop there, you know. Recently, I've been hearing the instant dismissal formula, which actually I heard it was in, I think it was Australian or New Zealand Parliament, in which some person made a disagreement with something, and then another person in the same debate got up and said, "Okay, boomer." And that was, of course, supposed to mean that the first person was instantly, you know, old-fashioned, out of date, and irrelevant. And that covers men and women, I'm reminding you. So believe me, it's not going to stop with these older men. Those words are just the prow of the ship. It will proceed to the rest of us in the end. And when society has pushed the boomers out of their category of relevance, then it'll be the next generation down. It won't stop, you know. And those kids pulling down the statues, which are monuments to our history, they're the rest of the ship. So, of course, I can't finish this without a literary reference, and this time I shall recommend a book by William F. Nolan called Logan's Run, set in the year 2116, in which Nolan envisages a society that at some time in the past was taken over by a cult of youth, in which it was decided that anyone over the age of 21 is redundant and is, as might be said, to be cancelled with extreme prejudice. It seems that the only thing Nolan got wrong was the date, and unless we stand up to it, that society is going to come here a lot sooner than he thought. Why don't you treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of promotional merchandising? The Grannyopteryx t-shirt or the Granbo mug, which comes in 2 flavours, with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. And whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.